Alright, hey guys, my name is Shadow, and welcome back to Elite Dangerous. So a little while ago, I did a video called Python version 2.1, Taking Back the HazRES. Now this was right after the 2.1 patch for Elite Dangerous came out and made the AI quite a lot stronger, and we needed some new way to combat that, and that's what that video was all about. And you guys seem to love that video, but quite a lot of you left comments saying, Shadow, how did you do the power management for that video? What do we do? How do we set our module priorities and stuff like that? And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the power management for this build. So if you've been following my engineers series, you'll know that I've changed this build just slightly. I've only changed one thing about this build, and real quick we'll just take a look and see what it is that I changed. So if we look right here, we can see that I've changed the gun on the nose from a class 3 turreted pulse laser to a class 3 gimbaled multi-cannon, and these are what I've been upgrading mainly in the engineer series. Now we've upgraded other things too. You can see we've upgraded the beam lasers, and we've also upgraded our power distributor, and if you haven't seen those videos, I'll leave a link to them down in the description, and you can go watch those and you can see what we've done to them. And I'm not really going to talk about that too much in this video. In this video, again, we're just going to be talking about the power management. Now, I'm not going to change this back to a pulse laser for this video because this C3 multi-cannon actually draws more power than that pulse laser, so I think it'll still be a pretty good example of how to do your power management. And the first thing to note about this particular build is that since 2.1 has released, there have been a series of patches that have come in and changed various things. And one of the most important things that we need to note has been changed for this build are the way that turrets operate. So previously, when we would use turrets, they would stay on whatever state you last had them in when you left a zone. However, now turrets have been given like a default state. So if we look over here at our functions tab, we can see this thing down here called turret weapon mode, and we can see that it's currently on fire at will. Now, fire at will for some reason has been made the default state for your turrets. So what this does is it will fire at any target that's hostile to you that's in range, basically, and it won't do anything else. Like if I deploy my hard points right now and I try to just fire the turrets, if I just target some ship randomly and I try to fire the turrets at something that's not hostile, they will not fire, even if it's in range, which this ship isn't at the moment. I'm going to push fire right now, and you can see that nothing happened. So that's because fire at will only fires at targets that are hostile. If I actually want to fire at this Diamondback Explorer right here, I have to either change these turrets to forward fire, which will just make them fixed weapons, or I can change them to target only, which will cause them to, well, fire only at this particular target, but they will do so when I push this button, like right now. So now let's actually address the power management issue. So obviously with all the components that are on this ship, if they were all to be on at the same time, yeah, we would be way over our maximum reactor power draw. But that's not happening, and that's due to something called module priority. Module priorities are assigned by using the column under your modules tab that's in between power and health, the one that says priority. Now what this basically does is tells your computer which modules are important and which ones can be shut off to conserve power, basically. And you can assign, well, a priority to each module. So if you assign a priority of 1 to a module, what this means to your computer is that this module is extremely important and don't shut it off under any circumstances. Now, what I've done here is I've kind of assigned my shield cell banks in kind of a, I don't know, like a cascading sequence, I guess you could say. I'm not really sure that's the right term. It kind of goes like this. So down at the bottom where it says output and usage, we can see output is at 100%, usage is at 118%, which means if I had everything turned on, I would be at 118% of my maximum reactor output. To lower that, we just turn some stuff off, but we don't actually turn it off, we just assign some module priorities. And we have to assign enough priorities so that it actually takes the usage down to about 99%. Because if it's at 100%, it will actually still be over by slightly. I know that may not make complete sense, but just trust me, it needs to be about 99% usage. So what we can see here is that we have a lot of shield cell banks, and we can actually only use one shield cell bank at a time. So we're just going to start out by using this 6A bank. So we want to have our first or our initial 6A bank on just all the time. So we can assign that a priority of 1, and that will make this be on all the time. Now our next 6A bank here is what I want to have come on when I shut the first 6A bank off, because I want to have my two 5A banks as my backup for when I've burned through my 6A banks, because I think that my 6A banks are, well, just more effective, and so that's what I want to use first. The 5A banks are still pretty good, but they won't reinforce my shields as much as the 6A banks, and so I want to have them come on after I've burned through my 6A banks. So what I've done is I've assigned my first 6A bank a priority of 1, and I've assigned my second 6A bank a priority of 2. So what will happen is when I shut off my first 6A bank, my second 6A bank will boot up, and I can demonstrate that by turning it off manually. And in fact, that's what I do in combat. So let's see how this works. I'm going to turn off my first 6A bank now, and my second one is going to come on. So here we go. So now you can see my second 6A bank is booting up, and that's denoted by that line going across right now. And it takes 30 or 40 seconds or something for it to come on, but that's okay, because if you need to turn that first bank off and turn your second one on, either you've just burned your last cell and you're still in combat, or you're no longer in combat. Either way, you should have enough time until that thing boots up. Now, my first 5A bank is assigned a priority of 3, and my second 5A bank is assigned a priority of 4. So this is going to do exactly the same thing. So now my first one is off, my second one is on. Now let's pretend I've depleted this bank, and I need to use my first 5A bank. Well, this is assigned a priority of 3, and since 3 is the number after 2, that's the one that's going to come on next, and I can demonstrate that by simply shutting this one off. So if I go like this, it's going to cause my 5A bank to come on. And it's the same thing. It's going to take a few seconds to boot up, but when it does, it'll be ready to go. And the same scenario, either I've just turned off my 6A bank and I need this one to boot up, but I have a couple of seconds, or I'm not in combat and it's not a big deal how long it takes. There it is, all charged up. And it's going to be the same thing when I turn this one off. It will cause my last 5A bank to come on. Now, I usually don't get down this far. I've actually never had to use this last 5A bank. It's just here for good measure, basically, just in case we actually burn through that many shield cells. But yeah, I can demonstrate this real quick. When I turn this one off, that last one will come on. Boom, just like that. And you can see with just this one shield cell bank on, we're at 95% power usage. So let's boot all of our shield cell banks back up, and then we can discuss this a little bit further. Now, when you're outfitting your ship, you don't need to be concerned about the excess power draw that all of these shield cell banks are going to put on your reactor, because these are going to be off most of the time. 3 out of 4 of these shield cell banks are going to be off at any time when you're using them. And if your hard points are retracted, then it doesn't matter because you have enough power to power them. It's only a factor when your hard points are deployed. But again, when your hard points are deployed at any time, 3 out of 4 of these banks are going to be off. So what you can do when you're outfitting your ship is just drop in one 6A bank and look at your power draw from your reactor at that point. Now, if you're good there, you can drop in any number of additional shield cell banks you want. I mean, it doesn't have to be 4 total shield cell banks. It could be as many shield cell banks as you have internal compartments that you can put them in, really. I mean, because all of them except one are going to be off at any given time. Now, if you're still over your power with shield cell banks and stuff, you can actually turn off some other stuff. So for example, I have a 4A fuel scoop in here that doesn't actually need to be on when my hard points are deployed, because if my hard points are deployed, I'm probably in combat and I don't need to use a fuel scoop at that point. So other modules can be set to even lower priorities than 4. I think the fuel scoop can actually go to 5. Let's see. Yeah, so the fuel scoop can be set to module priority 5, and if you need to turn additional components off to have enough power for your shield cell banks or for anything else, then priority 5 is probably the way to go, because that then does not interfere with the boot sequence of your shield cell banks. So you can see we have priority 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we've set the fuel scoop to 5, so it won't actually come on, well, unless you turn enough stuff off that it can actually power up. But 5 is the lowest priority system that you can assign, basically. So your computer will go, oh, that system is not very important, let's just keep that off as long as possible in the event that we need to conserve power. But I think that's pretty much going to do it for this video. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to say. Let me know if you guys had any questions that I did not answer, and I will be glad to answer them. Definitely let me know if you guys found this video helpful. Please feel free to ask any questions you have at any time. If you guys liked this video, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. If you thought it was terrible and I didn't make any sense and this is all kind of bullshit, hit that dislike button and leave me a comment and let me know. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and that's going to be it for me, so I will see you guys in the next one.